If you're looking for an awesome cave tile set for your tabletop gaming needs, then you're in the right place. So far in this series, we made a revolutionary cave tile system. So we have the tiles and walls. We've also made some really cool high definition scatter terrain. Now we need a way out of the cave with this exit with interchangeable backlit scenery. This week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. I hope you're enjoying this cave series. This is the third video in the series. And again, so far we got the tiles and we got some cool scatter terrain. Now we need a way out. So I devised this cool little tile. Again, it's a 6x6, like all of our tiles. It's almost like a little diorama, I guess. But the cool thing about this is that we got this backlit scene for the exit. So it's interchangeable. All you gotta do is pop that off, slide this scene out, slide a new scene in. For example, this is a cool little sun setting in a magical forest. And here we got a cool Mars setting at night with the moon in the background. So if you're ready to see how this is done, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Okay, so in this video, we're gonna start with a 6x6 tile that we've used for all the rest of the cave tiles in the series. And you want to cut a stairway that looks something like that. Now you can use these plans, but you're going to see they're going to change and evolve throughout the video because I actually end up changing the shape of this build later on. You're going to see me rip some stuff off of the build as we go along. So watch the whole video first, then you can build along with me after in your second go through. So once we have our stairs made, we're going to add a little texture to them with some aluminum foil. And here's a great example of changing things down the road. You can see it's almost kind of funny how particular I'm being. Now normally that's good. I'm trying to add some stone texture to this, but down the road it's going to look way too square, these steps. I'm going to end up taking my Olfa knife to it and really gouging these out and rounding these stairs off down the road. Now for each side of the stairs, I want some boulders. We're going to have the exit to the cave heading up, and I wanted boulders on both sides, but again, I put these in here and it was way too uniform, so I'm going to end up pulling some of these off. But to start, we want a small boulder for the front right, and now I'm carving a larger boulder for the back right. You can see how uniform these are. The two that are already in place and glued on the left are going to get ripped off. But all we got to do is add a little bit of hot glue, stick them in place, and don't worry too much about the gaps, because like we did in the scatter terrain video with the rubble pile, we're going to add a bunch of Sculptamold to that. Now for our light source and our scenery for the exterior of the cave exit, I needed to create a light box. And my plan here originally was to create this little light box and then create a stone boulder over the top of it. That proved to be a big pain in the butt, so I ended up scrapping this whole idea. So I decided to go with a solid block of 2-inch XPS foam to make the back of this cave out of, that we're going to slide our lenses into for different cave exit scenarios. Now what we need to do is cut out this stepped section here so it will fit nice over the back. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not using the Proxxon for this entire video, so I'm just using an Olfa knife to cut this out. Now later on I'm going to show you a set of plans that you can use that will allow you to not have to cut this step section out, and you can put a solid piece of 2-inch XPS foam over the top of the build and just use a hot wire knife to cut out the section for the lens, and it will look a little bit cleaner than this as well. But I didn't want to go back, I was already too far along in the build. Now all I'm doing here is marking out the top of the cave exit, and then we're going to draw onto that the actual entrance exit itself. And what I'm doing here is I'm marking out 1.5 inches, or 1.25 inches actually, on the hot wire knife. And that's how far in I want to go on the back of the cave wall. That's going to give us enough room to stick in our light source behind the wall. Enough room to have a slit that we can slide the clear plastic lens into for our visual for the cave exit as well. Now once we have that done, we're going to take an alpha knife and just saw it back and forth, popping this piece out. Keep in mind, you're never going to see behind this because that screen is going to be in front of it, but you want to have it, you know, looking somewhat decent. Alright, so now I have removed the left two boulders that I had hot glued on there. You can see remnants of them still on there. And now I'm taking the alpha knife and like I said earlier, I'm rounding off all of these stairs to make them look a lot more natural. And we break out the vacuum. This is a very important tool for this series. Lots of little pieces of XPS get carved off in the making of these tiles. Now for the left side, I wanted one solid rock to go up the left. Something different from the right piece. And all I'm doing here is trying to stencil out the cut so that this piece will fit over the stair section there on the left. If you grab the plans, you'll have a stencil all drawn out for you already that you can trace onto that and make that cut perfectly. And make sure you add plenty of stone texture onto that, and you want to roll all of these pieces with aluminum foil as well. Okay, now as you saw in the Scatterterrain series, we're just going to make a bunch of little boulders, the same as we did in that series, and we're going to add all of these to the steps. We're going to add a couple to the larger stones on the sides as well. Okay, so I just want to mention real quick that these plans here are going to represent the build from here on out. The plans earlier on in the video were the first set of plans that I had, and as you can see, this craft is completely changing as I'm moving along in the video. This is going to be really nice because this shape right here is going to allow you to make this cut very easy here on the bottom. You can use this stencil for that, and on the back here, this is going to show you all your cuts for the stones. This red hash mark is one stone. The next one is right here. This whole red section is going to be this one. And then the back here, as you can see, we have red along the entire back. That's going to allow us to have one solid continuous piece of stone going up the back and not having this. This was my original design, but I'm too far into the craft to change that now. We're going to add some stuff to that to make it look really nice in this video. But again, if you don't want to see that, you can follow the plans that I have modified. I'm also going to include just a couple of sketches here. You can pick from whatever you like. Just trace this over onto some clear plastic packaging, and we're going to use that to go in front of our opening to create our illusion of the exterior of the cave. Alright, so all I did was take a clear piece of plastic. This is actually a face shield that we had kicking around the house. And I'm drawing out the size of the lens that I'm going to need for my exterior of the cave. I'm going to cut this up with a pair of scissors, and then as I did in the Dwarven pillar video, we're going to take some fine grit sandpaper and sand down both sides of this. Now I drew up a couple of designs here. I got a little inspiration from a bunch of different websites online, and I just kind of reproduced my own take on some of these, and we're gonna have a couple different exteriors. Again, you grab the plans, you can choose any one of these. You can actually even make like a portal, which would be really cool. But as you can see, I've got a little like magical forest going on right here. We've got a tree, we've got like a Martian landscape, a castle. But basically all you want to do is grab a Sharpie and trace out the design onto that clear piece of plastic. Now once you have that done, I like to use the Prismacolor pencils. I think they work really nice. And what I did was I took some dark green, some light green, and I'm just working the colors together. The lighter green with a little bit of yellow on top of even that light green is going to have the illusion of light coming through. Again, I wanted this scene to be like the sun is kind of setting and the light's coming through like a misty forest. For the tree trunks, you can see I use a dark brown. And you want to use some canned air or blow away the chunks of the pencil that are left over, because if you try and wipe them away, you're going to smear them onto that lens. Now all I'm doing is adding in a little water effect, and I wanted to leave this whole section in here because I wanted you to see how well the plastic, once it's scratched up, takes the colored pencil, but also how you can use different colors and blend them together on this lens, and they blend really well. So right here you can see how the white is going to really blend well and push the blue around to have that kind of mirrored reflection look. You can do that with the grass and the leaves as well as the trunk. So right where the sun is where I'm going to have my balloon light, and I'm going to measure that out here in just a few, but I want to accentuate the yellow light where the LED balloon light's going to be. So that's why I drew a little bit of yellow in there. And then just to make sure that the deer in the background wasn't transparent, I went over that again in another layer of the marker. Now I wanted to show this. This is like a Martian Mars landscape, a sci-fi setting, and I'm gonna have some, red rocks in here. And I didn't want the stone to be transparent. That really wouldn't make too much sense. But I did want to have it glow just a little bit. So I'm going from really dark on the left to just fade the acrylic ink all the way to the right. It's going to make it really dark on the left side once we're done, and we'll have a nice glow effect right on the far right edge of the stone. Now that was on the back side. This is what the front side looks like with the color pencil. And as you can see, the acrylic ink kept that light coming through where we didn't want it to. Alright, now one thing that I want you to note, you can see the couple of dotted lines I put there. That's how I had my lines nice and straight to slide the lens in. I'm only cutting down to that first notch or that first step, but when you cut through, you want to cut down through 2 of those layers. You'll see it right here on that left side where I'm inserting that lens. You want to cut down through 2 so it slides in, holds in real nice and secure. Okay, so now I'm just using this Q-tip. I'm going to mark where the sun is. It's pretty much in the top, probably 2/3 of the cave is where I'm going to have that. Mark that location out, and then using the hot wire knife, we're going to burn a hole just large enough for the balloon light to squeeze into. And you want it to fit in nice and snug. Alright, now that we've got that where we want it, we're going to hit this up with some Mod Podge. These are some pink dots that I put onto this side that when the back wall is pressed into place, it's going to show us where we have to put our magnets. You've seen this in a lot of my videos. That smoke there was really bad, but that's because of the acrylic paint that was on there. You want to make sure to wipe that off as you're working. Now I didn't want to show this whole step again. I'll put a link up above to the scattered terrain video. I did this whole process on one of the pieces there. And once you have this all set up with some sand, some smaller rocks, hit it up with a little rubbing alcohol, and then some PVA glue with some water as a wash, and just kind of base that over all of the sand after it's had about 24 hours to dry. Then you can use a brush and brush all that into place, let that dry again, and it's going to really lock these pieces in where they're never going to come off. Couple that with a bunch of paint, and again, they're not going to go anywhere. Alright, so now for the paint job. We're going to base coat this whole thing top left in burnt umber and black mixture. It's going to have a really nice base coat to the entire craft. Then we want to take top right, the pewter gray, and give a really good dry brush or just kind of an overbrush over the entire craft, going just a little bit lighter on the rubble areas. Then bottom left, we break out the country gray, and now we just want to hit up the large rocks and boulders that have come down. And then finally, bottom right, the Dove Gray by Folk Art. We're going to hit up just the highlighted areas on all of the stone. And you can see already how it's really making the debris stand out from the rock. Then finally, we'll grab some ivory white to highlight just the brightest areas that we want to really stand out from the rest. Once that's had enough time to dry, we're going to break out the homemade brown wash, not the black wash, and hit up this entire piece. Once that's dried, we'll break out the ivory white one more time, and we're going to hit up just the highest area of only the stone. I don't want to do any of the debris area where we had the sand and the very small rocks. Now you've seen this in a lot of my videos. I love using pigment. This is a little mixture of my own. It's some black pigment mixed with some burnt umber, and I'm going to just brush that on to the smaller debris areas. It's okay if you get some on the rock, but that's really going to make that stand out from the rest. And then to lock it in place, real simple, a little spritz of some rubbing alcohol, and you're good to go. Alright, so now that we have a cave exit, the tiles, and some scattered terrain, in this series there's only one thing left to do. If you think you know what it is, leave a comment down below, and also leave some other comments as to things you'd like to see in this cave series, because I definitely want to come back to it in the future. And don't forget, this can be, again, a fantasy setting, it could be a sci-fi setting, the exit, but you can also make a really cool swirling effect and turn that into a portal. So there's just another option for you. If you took anything away from this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notifications for further videos here on Tabletop Witchcraft. Consider supporting the channel by picking up some merchandise, and also head on over to Patreon. It's support over there that really helps fund the channel with all the crafting materials that I need to keep this going. Alright, until next time, I'll see you around.